Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Waterfield, and I am your host for today's webinar, focused on improving your security posture with Microsoft 365. I want to start with a few logistics. Today's webinar is a Teams Live event. Attendees are muted, but you can interact via the Q&A. Michael Dupree is our moderator today. He's going to respond to questions in the Q&A window if appropriate, or he will promote them to our presenters to respond live before the conclusion of our webinar. And this webinar is being recorded. It's going to be posted to YouTube in the next few days, and you will receive a link to that recording when available, so you can revisit it or you can share it with your peers. Joining me today is Sean Flahy, our Senior Practice Director for Microsoft. I'm Jamie Waterfield, Vice President of Sales and Marketing. Together, we will be covering digital transformation and security challenges, securing the enterprise with Microsoft 365, Microsoft 365 security products and purchase options, and then we'll open it up at the end for any questions. I want to mention that this presentation is geared more towards the larger customer. If you're less than 300 seats evaluating Microsoft 365 Business, a subset of the security features that we discuss will be available in Microsoft 365 Business, but not all of them. So there is a comparison chart on our website under Microsoft Licensing. You can go there to learn more, but of course, we'd be happy to have that discussion with you if you want to reach out for scheduling that. Before we dive in on the security side, I'd like to give a brief overview of Apex Digital Solutions for those of us who may not be familiar. Apex has been serving the Metro Detroit area for over 20 years with the purpose of empowering people to make a positive difference in the lives of others. We provide professional and managed services around a broad portfolio of Microsoft solutions, as well as solutions that integrate closely with the Microsoft stack. And we're also a reseller of Microsoft licensing and hardware. We have over 350 customers and have delivered more than 450 cloud deployments. And through that, we're proud of maintaining our high standards. Our NPS scores consistently average above 80. I think they're hovering around 83 right now, while our customer sat ratings exceed 99, generally in that 99.6% range. So let's move into today's topic, digital transformation and security challenges. So we all know that technology is changing the way enterprises conduct business, and that's generally a good thing. But it has been challenging security practices like never before. Cloud and mobile computing have introduced new ways to connect with customers. They enable a remote workforce, which is very relevant given our current reality, and optimize operations. However, there are new risks that we need to take into consideration. Maintaining a resilient, comprehensive security posture can be a challenge for any enterprise. We've got traditional IT boundaries disappearing, so adversaries have new targets to attack. We've got employees bringing in new devices, new apps, data in the organization. This requires a new approach to protecting the company assets. Data privacy regulations like GDPR are holding companies accountable legally. Security must be ensured across the entire digital landscape, but we can't reduce end user productivity. So all of that challenging in and of itself. Now we add to that challenge dealing with false positive alerts and trying to cipher through which ones we need to pay attention to, the shortage of qualified security staff, and the need to configure, integrate, manage an average of 70 different security solutions across 35 vendors. So it's key to find a balance between powerful, complicated security capabilities and a security posture that you can maintain over time with your current staff and budget. No single provider is going to be able to solve for all your security needs. But taking a platform approach and consolidating with a small number of providers does eliminate challenges related to maintaining your skill sets, managing relationships and agreements with various security vendors, reacting to alerts, integrating solutions, and mitigating impacts to the end user productivity. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean, who's going to provide a deep dive insight into the secure features of Enterprise Microsoft 365.
Great, thanks, Jamie. To start out with on this slide, we're going to be talking about the 4 pillars of the Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5 security suite of tools. The intent and goal of all of these tools and the features underneath these tools is to provide the most secure environment for an organization. Again, as Jamie said, while not hindering user productivity. That is key for every organization. To start out with the first pillar, we've got identity and access management. This one, I think everyone can relate to this somehow. We've all had someone, or maybe ourselves, have had our email compromised, or maybe our Facebook account got hacked, and all of a sudden weird posts started popping up on our timeline for sunglasses for sale for a great price. Easy enough just to text your friend or family member and say, hey, change your Facebook password. You probably got hacked. But relating that over to the enterprise, the consequences can be much greater for an entire organization if a single account is compromised. Attackers could gain access to email, company files, file systems, applications, to do things such as exfiltrating data, holding data, and expecting the organization to pay a ransom, or causing just general harm to the organization. Building on protecting the user identity, the second pillar is information protection. This tool is used to protect files wherever they live, whether a file lives on a file share, network drive, whether the file lives on a cloud location such as OneDrive or Dropbox. The data can be protected and encrypted wherever it lives to keep it safe. The third pillar is threat protection. These tools are used to keep users' data, devices, and applications safe from today's advanced threats, as well as automating the threat protection, detection, investigation, and remediation of these threats. And the last pillar is really gaining visibility into all these tools that we've now implemented as part of this suite of tools. It's very important that we know as we implement these tools, we know what these tools are doing, what they're blocking or preventing, or what it's finding in the organization if it does actually find a security threat. And also, we want to be able to quantify and really measure the return on investment of these security tools, because we are making an investment in improving the organization's security posture. We want to make sure that we're getting our best bang for our buck here. So moving on to the first pillar was identity and access management. And today in the traditional on-premises world, protecting identity meant using on-premises hardware, firewalls, on-prem security tools, intrusion detection systems. Today, we see a vast majority of breaches that do involve compromised identities. And now in today's world, identity really is the new control plane for security. This requires organizations to focus on protecting these identities and making sure they don't get compromised. Listed here on this slide are some of the key features that are included in the E5 security suite that can help further secure a user's identity. I'm not going to call out all of these. I just want to mention a few. One of them is the ability to automatically change access rights for users if their account becomes compromised, or even require a re-authentication for elevated risk levels. And what I want to talk about there is every time a user logs in, their login is measured against a risk level. And there's many factors that can go into a risk level. Certain things like what IP address are they logging in from? What device are they using? Where are they located? What is the time of day? All of these factors can combine together to create a risk level on a per login basis. And if that risk level is deemed to be high enough, the tool can take action on that login. Instead of just automatically letting them in because they typed in their password properly, they can either 1, block the login, 2, force re-authentication, or 3, force a multi-factor authentication against that user account to make sure that the user that's logging in is actually the real person. Another one is the ability to notify the organization when a user's credentials are up for sale on the dark web. We've seen this a few times recently in the news where maybe major retailers or other organizations have get hacked or compromised, and the attacker gains access to a large database full of user IDs and passwords, and tries to post them out there on the dark web to sell them and make money off of their work. And these tools from Microsoft have the ability to see those and compare those against your existing passwords, and then if the correlation is made, again, elevate that user risk level. Either one, block the account from logging in, force MFA, or do other things to make sure that the attacker really can't access the account. And with these identity and access management tools, Microsoft and Azure Active Directory really provides a single solution that could provide identity across on-premises and cloud directories. This is important because the cloud application landscape is only growing by the day for every organization, and it's important to know that if I've got 5, 10, 20 cloud applications that my users use on a daily basis, that's 5, 10, 20 different user identities that they have to manage, that you as the IT organization have to manage. And if you can really consolidate that into one single solution, get all these advanced features, and then also implement policies like multi-factor authentication and others, you can really start to hone in on protecting those user IDs across the organization. And as you can see from these features, the identity and access management tools in the E5 suite are all about automation. This keeps your organization protected without having to manually manage and configure these policies. Moving on to the second pillar is information protection. We all know sharing information with trusted parties inside and outside the organization today is key. But however, when this free flow of information introduces increased risk for potential data loss, whether it's sending email attachments, sharing files in OneDrive or Dropbox, or even saving files to your network drives. Files are flowing everywhere all the time. The information protection capabilities here allows you to set policies on a user level to automatically protect sensitive data, whether that data is newly created or whether that data is historical and it's been sitting on a file server forever. This data can be protected whether the data is inside your org, whether this data is hosted on third-party apps like Salesforce or Dropbox, for example, and even when the data travels outside the organization via email or a USB stick. Some of the features of the E5 that I want to call out here on this slide are: one is the ability to automatically identify potentially sensitive information, such as credit cards or social security numbers, and automatically apply a label and protect that file. Now, these labels can take a lot of actions when we apply it, and either one, it can automatically encrypt the document, or it could provide recommendations to the user saying, hey, I noticed you put some sensitive information in this document. Did you really want to do that? Or are you sure you don't want to encrypt that data? We can configure what we want to tell the users to do when they do that behavior. Another key feature of the E5 capabilities here is to protect sensitive data when it travels outside of your organization via email, USB, or third-party SaaS apps. And again, the key here is automation. So if you're sending an email and you have credit card numbers or social security numbers inside that email, it can take action to automatically encrypt that data and protect those documents as they go out on your behalf. And one other feature I want to call out is the ability to scan historical on-premises file server data for potentially sensitive information. Many organizations have many file servers that have been, just accumulating data over years and years. And to no fault of our own, that's It's part of business. That's how we do business, and we need to store that data for business purposes. However, when we have all that data sitting out on our file servers, before we didn't really have the ability to know what was in these documents or know if it contains any of that sensitive data. We can now use these information protection features from Microsoft here to scan these documents and then potentially protect that data automatically, even as it sits on our file servers inside of our organization. And as we continue the theme of automation here with information, it's really important to know that these tools are working for you to protect your data wherever it lives. Of course, we do have to configure the boundaries and what types of data we want to protect. Every organization's different, but once this is set up, the policies will automatically act on your behalf. Moving on to the third pillar of security is threat protection. When protecting against threats, we generally think of malware protection or prevention. Threat protection here in E5 offers a combination of both traditional approaches such as anti-malware tools, along with newer technologies such as endpoint detection and response, or EDR, as an example. The intent here is to focus on both prevention of attacks as well as post-breach remediation in the event that it does happen. I'm not going to call out all of the features here on the slide. A few I want to talk about are the ability for endpoint monitoring with the ability to quarantine devices during its investigation. So the example I'm referencing here is there are tools that live on the device, and if a malware attack or if something is noticed on the device, the tool has the ability to automatically quarantine or isolate that device so it doesn't have a chance to spread the infection across the network or across across servers, across other devices within the vicinity of that PC. This is really nice as it has the ability to quarantine it, do its investigation, and maybe it does find something, it can really keep it quarantined. But if it finds that through the investigation nothing really bad happened, it can then unquarantine the device automatically and allow the user to connect to resources as it normally was. The second feature here is advanced email protection against phishing attempts and unknown zero-day threats. Again, email is a major source of infection and security risk for organizations, whether that's through attachments or hyperlinks that users may click, and then something goes wrong because the device or the attachment may have been infected. This really has the ability to stop that from happening before the mail gets there and even after. I use an example. Maybe a user gets an email, double clicks on a PDF, and something bad happens. And the tools have the ability to know something bad happened and could potentially go and say, okay, this wasn't supposed to happen. I'm going to go and remove this email from other mailboxes within the organization so those other users don't click on that. And again, this is all automated and using the tools to your advantage to make sure that all users stay protected. The last feature I want to call out is the ability to automatically detect anomalies and suspicious behavior without requiring me to create rules and spend a lot of time fine-tuning them. And again, this kind of relates back to my last point. These tools know how PDFs should open or what types of things should happen when a user opens up a PDF. And then when a user opens up a PDF one day and the normal things don't happen, that's the tool recognizing that and saying something wrong is happening here. I'm either going to alert someone about it or I'm going to stop it from happening. So then again, mitigating the threat so it doesn't spread further from where it started. These threat protection tools have really come a long way since the days of traditional antivirus solutions that got installed on user workstations. These newer tools, I'm sorry, can respond automatically to inconsistent behavior on PCs and then take action to ensure the infection does not spread to other devices throughout the network. Moving on to the fourth pillar is security management. Management and monitoring of these security tools is very important. If you've ever dealt with a security incident, we all know it takes time to sift through the wreckage, so to speak. Whether it's running scans on devices, unplugging devices from the network, figuring out whose mailbox was compromised first, as an example. It just takes time and it takes resources to be able to track down these events. And whether the attack came in via email, then moved to a different device, then maybe to a server, lots of things to check. The security management features of the M365 suite do use forensic reporting across both on-premises, Azure, and third-party cloud applications. One of the features from a security management standpoint here is the ability to benchmark your security against organizations in your industry or of similar size. And this is not specific to the E5 suite. This is available to any Office 365 or M365 customer today, and it's called SecureScore. So I'd recommend anyone that's listening, go to securescore.microsoft.com, check out what your score shows for your organization. And the nice thing about the SecureScore is not only does it give you a benchmark, but it also gives you recommended actions that you can take to improve your security posture, such as stop automatic forwarding of emails outside of the organization, or enable MFA for your administrator accounts. Those are just two small examples of things you can do to improve your security right away. And when you do that, the score will recognize you've made those changes and raise your score. So this is a really nice way to really gauge how you're doing today, and then how you can improve tomorrow. Another nice feature here from a security management perspective is the ability to run email phishing simulations and exercises. We love the ability to be able to send these mock phishing emails to our users in a safe space, so to speak, so that we can send out a mock phishing email to our users. We can measure how many users click on it, how many users actually type in their credentials. And again, this is all safe. Nothing bad is happening. This is recommended by the organization. And then we can make decisions on what we need to do from a communication or a training perspective after that. Maybe a lot of users clicked on the link that they weren't supposed to. Well, we may have a training issue, or maybe users didn't, and that may validate some of the training you've already been doing from a security standpoint. Either way, it's a good way to measure and learn about what's happening in your organization. So talking about these 4 pillars, this really concludes my section on the advanced features of the M365 E5 security suite. I didn't specifically talk about the names of each tools because the benefit here is with the security solutions from Microsoft and the E5 suite specifically is that these tools all talk to each other, they're aware of each other, and they work together. These tools can track a threat that arrives in an email and then might affect a PC, and then maybe an identity might be stolen from there. All of these events can be correlated together using these E5 security tools, which is a really nice benefit when we put them all together. So with that, I will turn it back over to Jamie to discuss the specific licensing required for these tools and features.
Great, thanks, Sean. So from a licensing perspective, Sean walked through the security features in E5 across the 4 security pillars, but E5 contains a lot more than just the advanced security features. So you've got your analytics, you've got your Microsoft conferencing and phone system, there's the compliance suite, which he did touch on a couple of those features. And the cost jump is going from $32 per user per month, that's MSRP pricing, to $57 per user per month. So I know when we talk to customers about E3 versus E5, there's a lot of feedback around, hey, we love these security features, we are very interested in them, but we don't have any plans in our roadmap right now for the analytics, the phone system. What options do we have? So with that, wanted to make sure that you were aware of Microsoft 365 E5 add-ons for security, and there's also one for compliance. So for the security add-on, it's $12 per user per month for MSRP. You can add that on to your E3 license plan, and you get all of those E5 security features, all of the automation, the integration that Sean talked about today. There is also a compliance add-on if those features are of interest to you. Microsoft recently announced that starting on April 1st, you will be able to purchase one of 3 modules. So they enhanced the compliance add-on was $10 per user per month. It's now $12 starting April 1st, but you also have the option to buy singular submodules under there. So if you just need e-discovery and audit, you could purchase that for $6 per user per month. Of course, if you're looking at buying at least 2 of those compliance modules, then buying the full add-on would make sense. Likewise, if both the security and the compliance add-on are of interest to you, then buying the full E5 suite starts to come into play. Once you add in analytics or phone system, your best bet is to completely go to E5. So you can gradually do that over time if that makes sense for your particular roadmap. So looking more closely at this, we began today's webinar about talking about the complexity and the costs associated with maintaining and managing so many different security solutions and vendors. So what this is illustrating here is just that consolidating those multiple point solutions to Microsoft Security is going to significantly reduce your costs, but provide the same set of capabilities that you're currently paying for with other vendors. So that's your email protection, your endpoint protection, your intrusion, your access, the cloud access security broker. You're probably buying that today. If you're not on E5, you've got some other vendors mixed in. With the E5 security add-on, Microsoft and outside parties have estimated that the E3 customer saves upwards of 52% versus those point solutions that are being purchased on the left side there. So when you take the platform approach with Microsoft 365, where individual layers of security are talking to each other, you've got that automation benefit, the whole's more powerful than the sum of the parts. All right. So if you are on Microsoft 365 E3, or even if you're on Office 365 and you're unsure of how E5 relates to your business and requirements, perhaps you're on Office 365 and you've been looking at the M365 E3 suite, but security is a growing concern, we would recommend engaging in a security workshop. For certain eligible customers, including small business customers, this workshop may be funded by Microsoft, so we can validate if you qualify for that. But regardless, it's a valuable day intended to help you develop a strategic plan based on Microsoft cybersecurity best practices, and we customize it based on your organization needs. What do you currently have in your environment today? Where are you headed? What's of a concern to you? What requirements are you being held to? And this will help gain some clarity and support on how to upgrade your security posture and validate if you need those advanced security features. There's also a similar workshop that we can provide, almost the same exact framework around those compliance components as well. So that concludes our presentation for today. I'm going to turn it over to Michael to ask if there's any questions from the Q&A panel that have not been addressed.
Thank you, Jamie. I have not received any questions that for you guys in here. If anyone does have anything, if you want to enter it real quick, we can certainly still address those. But as of now, it doesn't seem to have anything coming through.
All right. We're just going to assume that Sean addressed all of the open needs out there. So as I mentioned, we are recording. This will be posted. You guys will receive a link. Feel free to share. We will also put it up on LinkedIn and tweet it out. So follow us there if you're not already. We try to do these webinars once a quarter. So certainly appreciate that time is valuable, and want to make sure that the recordings are made available. All right, well, if we don't have any additional questions, we will gladly give people 15 minutes back in their day. Don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Jamie Waterfield, jwaterfield@apexdigital.com. If you would like to further discussion, we'd be happy to schedule some additional time. Thank you so much.